Many of the high achievers I talk to struggle with feeling confident. And one of the signs of high functioning anxiety is struggling with self doubt and overthinking. So, when you have the tendency to struggle with self doubt and focus on the negative and overthink things, then that can result in a tendency to lack confidence in yourself. I have good news though. This is something you can change. And I'm going to talk all about how you can feel more confident from within in this episode, especially if you struggle with self doubt and feeling like you're not good enough. This is episode number 92. Welcome to Calmly Coping. My name is Tati. I'm a licensed therapist and coach specializing in high functioning anxiety. I help high achievers overcome anxiety, stress, and overwhelm so they can finally stop overthinking everything. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this topic interests you, then please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I release a new episode. So when you feel confident, you're sure of your strengths and abilities. This sense and feeling of self-assuredness is then reflected in your behaviors and the way that you act and present yourself towards others. So you might be more willing to try new things, to put yourself out there, to do things outside of your comfort zone. You might be more comfortable being your authentic self and asserting the knowledge, beliefs, ideas, and values that you personally hold. So of course there is a spectrum to confidence, and I'm not referring to overconfidence or cockiness. You don't have to flaunt or exaggerate your strengths to be confident. When I talk about feeling grounded from within, it's a sense of groundedness, a faith in yourself, and an objective and realistic assessment of your strengths and everything you have to offer, which is a lot. So how do you feel more confident from within when you struggle with self-doubt, insecurity, overthinking feedback and responses, which then results in more overthinking and feeds that cycle of self-doubt? So step one is to identify your strengths. Now, this might be challenging for you. I know this happens a lot with my clients, that when I ask them to name their strengths, it can be really hard and uncomfortable to think about, because a lot of times we're not necessarily thinking and identifying our own strengths. And so if that's you, then that's perfectly okay, especially if you haven't done this exercise before. But I want you to reflect upon, what are the things that you're proud of yourself for? What are the things that you do well? What are the things that other people compliment you for? And to go a step further, you can even reach out to friends, family members, or colleagues and ask them, what are my strengths? What is it that you think I do well? What is it that you admire about me? And that can help to give you some feedback from an external source that might help you to see yourself in a different light. And so I want you to start with identifying your strengths, because this can help bring to the surface all of those strengths that you actually do have. And identifying your strengths can be like a muscle that you build. If it's hard to do in the beginning, if it feels uncomfortable, then that's okay. And the more that you practice it and the more you bring awareness to your strengths, then the easier it will become. And this will help to fuel your confidence from within. So if you're a high achiever or you're struggling with high functioning anxiety, I can bet that I know some of your strengths already. So some of those things might be a willingness to help others, attention to detail, going above and beyond in anything you do, a strong work ethic, being a deep thinker. So maybe this gives you some ideas to fuel for what your strengths are. And I'm sure that you have so many more. So once you've done that, then step two is to watch out for self-doubt. So a lot of times, again, when I ask my clients to tell me what their strengths are, they'll tell me, oh, I'm really willing to help others, but sometimes it turns into people pleasing. Or I'm intelligent, but I still have so much to learn. Watch out for those buts, excepts, if onlys, all of those things that are signs of self-doubt. Because, anytime there's a but, it's kind of taking away from what you've just said. So if you identify a strength and you say but, it takes away the positivity and the pride that you might feel and the confidence you might feel as a result of naming your strength. So watch out for that and recognize that those are signs of your self-doubt and maybe your insecurity or maybe your fear coming up. So it's not that it's a bad thing to think this way. It's just that you probably have a lot of practice thinking this way, maybe as a means of protecting yourself or keeping yourself safe from criticism from others. Notice that these things come up and recognize that there are examples of you getting in your own way. Maybe you're making yourself small and subtracting from your strengths. And maybe you're trying to stay humble, but you're really bringing yourself down. And if you want more support and guidance on managing self-doubt, then I have a podcast episode on 3 ways to finally overcome self-doubt. You can check that out by clicking on the link in the corner if you're watching on YouTube. And I also have a free PDF resource that is 4 tips to cope with high-functioning anxiety. And step 1 is identifying your strengths. So I walk you through the process of doing that. So if it's something that you're struggling with and you want more guidance on how to do that and journal prompts to help you to do that, then you can go to calmlycoping.com/4 tips. That's the number 4 TIPS. And you can get that free PDF to help you to walk through that process. Step 3 is to identify your triggers for a lack of confidence. So we all have them. And a lot of times, for me and for many people I know, those triggers can be trying something new or doing something that's out of your comfort zone, doing things that maybe in the past you've received criticism or negative feedback about. Maybe it's social situations or meeting new people, going to like networking events or things that might bring up anxiety. You might not feel as confident. Or maybe it's important meetings, performances, presentations, or projects or anything like that. Those are just a few examples of things that might bring up that self-doubt and that lack of confidence. So identify what are the arenas or the situations in which you struggle with a lack of confidence. And so once you've identified those things, that can be really helpful and important, because once you know that, then you can remember that before this event or thing happens or during, you might be more prone to those thoughts of self-doubt and feeling a lack of confidence. Essentially, it can help you to be prepared that when, especially in anticipation of this, like let's say you have an important presentation, in anticipation, you might notice thoughts of self-doubt and thoughts of worrying or not feeling as confident, maybe feelings of imposter syndrome. When you notice these things and oh, this is because I have this thing coming up that I'm really nervous about and I don't feel confident. So this is a trigger for me to doubt myself and to not feel as confident. Then you can be skeptical of your thoughts and remember that your thoughts aren't facts, and that these feelings and thoughts of self-doubt are coming up because this is a situation where you're not feeling as confident. Once you know that, and I like to look at it as kind of like the observer, like you are observing those thoughts and recognizing that these thoughts aren't factual, so you're not identifying with them, then just remember that during these times, these thoughts are going to be loud and they're going to be trying to protect you and keep you safe. So keep that in the back of your mind, or even write a post-it note to remind yourself that these thoughts of self-doubt and the lack of confidence aren't true. They're based on and coming from a place of fear. And so if you can remind yourself during these moments, then you can stop attaching to those thoughts and following that spiral of negativity and self-doubt. And just practice catching yourself, noticing that, and remembering this. And then do the thing anyway. It's really important to not allow these thoughts and these fears to hold you back from doing things that you don't feel confident about. So doing the thing is going to actually help you feel more confident in the long run. Notice those thoughts, notice the self-doubt in those triggering moments, and then just do the thing anyway. And step 4, and one of the most important, is to be proud of yourself. I often practice gratitude, and within this, I will include things that I'm proud of myself for. And I think many times we can often expect this from others. So we might expect other people, like parents or partners or family or friends, to tell them, oh, I'm so proud of you for doing this, or you did such a great job on this. But we often don't provide those things for ourselves. And when you're able to be proud of yourself for the things that you've done and the things that you have accomplished, however small they might be, then you are building that muscle of feeling more confident because you're recognizing all of the amazing things that you're doing, or all of the amazing things that you are. Focus on the things that you're doing well that you might tend to overlook. Maybe do a weekly reflection on what went well this week. What am I proud of myself for? So maybe it's having pride for just showing up and listening to this episode and proving to yourself that you want to work on your personal development. Maybe it's pride for stepping out of your comfort zone. And even if things didn't go as well as you expected, you at least took that step and faced your fears. Maybe it's pride for all of the unique strengths that make you you. I want to emphasize to not compare yourself to others because you are unique and amazing. As corny as that sounds, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And oftentimes this lack of confidence can come from that fear that something's wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or other people are better than me. So it's really important to recognize and remember that you are unique and nobody else is like you. And, to draw from this cliche, why blend in when you were born to stand out? Oftentimes, we can be so focused on wanting to be like other people that we admire or seeing other people in this limelight of, wow, they're so amazing. They have all these strengths. And, that can be great to have people that you admire. It's also equally as important to admire yourself and to recognize all of the strengths and capabilities that you personally have. I have one example where I used to feel, especially when I was younger, like I was different because I was always told that I was shy. And then I later learned when I was in college that, I was more introverted and maybe not as talkative or outgoing. And I enjoyed being by myself and recharging in that way. And so when I was in college, I was asking a professor for a letter of recommendation. I don't remember if it was for grad school. I asked the professor for a letter of recommendation and she responded to me and said, I would love to write one, but I don't really know you very well. You didn't participate in class and this and that. And I was the kind of person that would sit in the back of the class. I always did everything that I had to, and I was a very good student, but it was difficult for me to speak up, partly because of social anxiety and partly because of the fact that, I like to think a lot and be thoughtful and intentional before I say things. So I wouldn't always participate in class. So I remember I wrote a letter to this professor. Basically, the thesis was, I think that people who have more an extroverted personality traits tend to be favored when it comes to the learning environment. And, that as a result of that, especially if it's in a lecture environment, people who are introverted, their qualities aren't highlighted in this kind of environment. I basically wrote this letter, and as a result, she ended up changing her mind and said, I will write you a letter of recommendation. But I tell you this story just so that you can recognize that even if you feel like you're different, or even if society has certain expectations and pressures that you need to be this way, or there's something wrong with you if you're not doing things in this way, or you're feeling confident or feeling lack of confidence for a specific purpose, then, it's important to recognize that not everybody is going to view your strengths in the same way. And that even if you're different and even if you're not doing things in the way that other people are, then it doesn't matter. You still have unique qualities and traits. And even if somebody else doesn't recognize them, or even if it's different from the status quo, then that doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. Confidence isn't about being this extroverted, boisterous person who is always ready to just put themselves out there. But confidence, what it means to me, is being comfortable being yourself, whatever that might be. And part of that is embracing your strengths and embracing your qualities. And so I want to leave you with that. And your action tip for this episode is to take these tips and put them into action and see what you notice. Identify your strengths. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would love if you would leave me a comment below and letting me know what your strengths are. If you're interested in diving deeper into this topic of how to feel more confident from within, then I created an entire training along with actionable exercises for this month's training in the Calm and Ambitious community. This is my monthly membership for high achievers who are struggling with high functioning anxiety. So in the membership, I give you not only the back catalog of all of my trainings dedicated to people struggling with high functioning anxiety, but each month you're going to get a new training a live Q&A call, and access to a private Facebook community where you can get support and accountability. So if you're interested in joining and learning more, you can go to calmandambitious.com. While you wait for next week's episode, I have other episodes about decreasing anxiety, adopting a healthy mindset, and managing your time and energy. So be sure to check out these episodes here. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and until next time, be calm.